Welcome back. We are Cypress Hill here, hiking with my friend Kim Bellissimo.
Yo.
And I am Noe, and we wanted to talk about some stuff around religions and sort of being these judgments that are felt across a few different the way the kind of mind takes over, right? And it thinks it knows how to do God the right way.
Right, and there's God the right way, and then we separate from people, we divide, and then we start judging people, and it takes us truly out of relationship, as opposed to really opening our heart and being in relationship, and with that relationship, now we can see kind of the Christ within them, they can see the Christ within us, and they may not even be Christians. But it is this openness and, this kindness to be in relationship and show up so that they can be in relationship and show up in a certain way as well. It's an invitation for a conversation, an invitation for a conversation, an invitation for a conversation.
Invitation for a conversation.
And that is what the heart does. It invites people in. It connects. It's like when you think about animals, they are very loving, they're very connected, they lead with their heart. And so it's when we approach someone, do we approach that person with judgment, fear, doubt? Do we cast them out because they're not our set? As opposed to, we open our heart and lead with an invitation for a conversation. An invitation for conversation.
Invitation for a conversation, yeah. Look at all this stuff.
It was love, and I can't see it.
And it is grief.
No, it was love, and I lived in it.
And it was grief, and I will carry it. Let it go.
And yeah, let that grief go, because that is where Christ comes in.
But I love the example of like Dexter, the dog. I'm not a dog, but I'm gonna invite that conversation,
Yes, for an invitation. And it was interesting because I was talking to a client, and they were saying the person that they were with was completely overtaken. And then they went up on a bluff and they saw all these sea otters. And in that moment, they were saying was the best day. Because animals open our heart because the way they approach us and that love and that peace. And so in that heart connection that person felt with just looking down at the otters, there was a shift, there was a change. There was relating with nature. And so when people talk about my religion's right, your religion's wrong, we all have maybe different beliefs, but like in the Catholic sect, there's so many different types of Catholics. The Franciscans, nature connected. The conservatives or the Marians, all these different types. And when you can really be open without the judgment, you can see a lot of reflections of what is showing up in them and in you, where you're getting into relationship in a new way with people. And by opening your heart, this is where the God burst comes in. Like we go on these hikes because Noe and I bring Christ within and God in between us. And so that is what this invitation is, this channel is. And let's just look at this view right here. And we are inviting all of you in, to this space where Christ is in between us. Father, Son, Holy Spirit is in the space. And it's with the living, loving light that something new can begin. That creativity comes in and through. Now that is way more interesting than I am right, you are wrong, and some opinion that separates or divides. Because creativity is when God is inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you had an experience with maybe judgment or people that have judged you by the religion you are or your beliefs?
Yeah, I'm not more like indirectly, but yeah, definitely. Some a Protestant person who sort of, might probably has their opinions about my belief with Mary, but not really.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And my best friend, she's Protestant. She's my best friend, and I love her, and we share Christ together, and we create together. And so she poo-poos, kind of a lot of, the things that, that the Catholic Church believes in. And, but, it's kind of like, I help her with her Bible verses. I help her do her speeches. And, but we still have a relationship. We still have the common connection. And I think when you can really see the good in people's hearts, they start to change. And I think in our society, it is about finding ways to come together and create together. And really respecting, even if different religions, there are so many similarities. And but I think too, with the difference between Catholic and Protestant is, you are what you eat, and being Catholic, I am what I eat. What do I eat? Jesus. I eat the Eucharist. And so, Noe talks about eating a lot, so he is what he eats. He's got a very pure diet. And the Eucharist is on, is that a daily plan, Noe? Or is that a weekly? I usually do once a week, going to Mass. But how is your eating Christ plan?
Well, I had the Eucharist this morning. I always plan on not taking it because if I haven't confessed prior to it, like I always confess probably once a week. But if it's been like 3 days or more, I always go up to with the intention of not taking the Eucharist and just being blessed. But then what I end up doing is I cross my arms, and then I see how that feels, and asking Mary, like, and then I act to receive it and see how that feels. And if I get strong communication, it's today it was Saint Joseph that pushed me to do it. And I said, okay, St. Joseph says I'm good to take it. I'm good to take it. And I confessed afterwards anyways. Yep. So I always, I'm always just going, asking God.
And so what does that mean for you, the confession?
The confession? Well, I can tell you what it feels like.
Okay.
Every single time I've done it, it feels like this layer of stagnant old energy just comes off. It's something about just the hierarchy perhaps in the church with the Father, that getting at stuff through Christ, obviously getting at stuff that I even when I'm asking and when I'm trying to look at stuff in my space and nature, I can't get at it.
Yep.
And for example, this morning I woke up going, wow, what a crazy dream I had. And it was about a friend of mine who, when we were in college, we did some questionable things together that were not very Christ-like. And in that dream I thought, whoa, I think I might have a unholy tie in a way with him. And so I thought, this is good. I'm so glad this is coming up, because he was my best friend in college, and we did so many things together, and it's a surprise that it's taken this long for stuff to come up, but I'm so glad it did, because now in retrospect, looking at it, like, yeah, there's some things to confess about there.
Right.
And that's what this morning was about for me.
Yeah. And then afterwards how do you feel?
Oh, I felt like a little lighter on my step. I felt like there was a clearer communication to God, which is number one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, yeah. And so it's kind of like that's in a way, the repenting is the change. Oh, I want to make a change. And like you were saying, something came up from, you know, the past, like we were talking about earlier. When something comes up from the past, this energy comes in, you know, this disconnection. Maybe we all have things from the past of what happened to that relationship, or there was a break in it, and you know, and now we still have the residue of it. And a lot of times these things come up and out in order for us to make a change of like, I want to, Christ make me new in that way. And in a way, confession is really good to just even have somebody, you know, somebody observing it. You know, even if, let's say, you're not Catholic, you can still confess to a friend. You can still have communication with a friend of, you know, I'm going to let go of this, because it's about awareness. It's about acknowledging, you know, I'm going to change. And with that change, I want to be new again. And then it creates a space then for Christ to come in. And that's why we did this channel too. We are looking, in everyone there's holes. And every kind of day there is an ending. And this is an opportunity to let that go and to bring Christ in. And with Christ create a new beginning. So that is kind of experiencing, you know, this relationship. And we kind of invite you, because some people will reject all religion. So we're not even saying become a religious. We're saying start a conversation with Christ. Start a connection, communication, start a relationship. And in that relationship with your heart, see what thing starts. See what comes up for you to release. Repent just means I'm going to change. And you don't have to change, because the mind goes into, I got to do all these changes. It's going to be effort. What do I do? Eat this, that. No, it is about letting Christ through, because it's for Christ to make the change in you. It's for God to fully come in and through. And
that's an important statement right there. It is for God to come through and make the change for you.
I like that God verse. It is for God to come through to make the change in you.
It is for God to come through to make the change for you.
It is for God to come through to make the change in you.
It's for God to come through to make the change in you.
It's for God to come through to make the change in you.
It's for God to come through to make the change in you.
It's for God to come through to make the change in you.
It's for God to come through to make the change in you. For God to come through to make the change in you. It's for God to come through to make the change in you. It's God to come through to make the change in you. God to come through
to make the change in you.